seat?
I think that just the transition to NASCAR was difficult, to figure these cars out and understand what they need. Going back and forth throughout the year, I think was fine. I really didn't mind that. I suppose every now and again I would get into one of the cars, and because I was in the other one the weekend before, I'd think, oh wow, the steering wheel seems like it's in the wrong place, or the pedals are in the wrong place. But you know, that was just like getting used to something for a weekend. But I wasn't really bothered going back and forth. That to me wasn't an issue. It was really just trying to get used to these stock cars and figuring out what they need.
Was there any thought of doing the ARCA race again this year, because it certainly gave you a lot of confidence last year and was kind of a good?
Yeah, there was consideration to do the ARCA race. I guess, you know, it takes a lot of time, and so I didn't know what the schedule would allow as far as, you know, how much time do I go to. I mean, I was here for a couple of weeks last year, so you know, there was that thought. There was the thought of, to be honest, I mean, if I go back for a second time, I guess this is maybe my own fear, but you know, you all expect me to do better, and so, you know, then you know, there's that added pressure of, like, it's not just to go out there and drive around for the day. It's like, okay, I did it last year, and now I need to do better this year, and that's an added pressure. So public perception was one of them, and you know, it just didn't. It's a different car as well. I really felt like whenever I drove a different car, so I drove the ARCA car, then the Nationwide for Daytona, and then I did the East car, and then the Nationwide car for Dover, and they feel different. They do. When I got out onto the track in a Nationwide car here at Daytona, it was all this. I thought, this is a lot harder, and you know, you get used to a feeling. So I didn't like going back and forth from the East car to the Nationwide car at Dover, and so, you know, I think that we'll just stick with a feeling, and you know, and get good at that.
As far as your NASCAR career, are there times where you kind of wish you'd be treated just like another driver, rather than necessarily, you know, be taking attention away from somebody like a Jamie McMurray?
Well, I'm not about taking attention away from anyone. That's definitely not my motive at all. I think that for me, there's pros and cons to it, you know. I mean, you're watching if I do well, but you're watching if I do badly too. So, you know, there's that. I feel like I just feel really lucky, you know. I'm lucky that people care about my story, and that they want to read about it or hear about it, and that you all write about it. So I don't know. It's a tough question. At this point in time, I guess I feel weird when you're all not around.
What is your contract situation right now?
That's a poignant question.
In terms of
well,
the
it's
lengths.
as I said last year, you know, it's going to be 2 years of the same thing. So full IndyCar and part-time Nationwide, and then we'll just have to see for 12. Danica. But it's pretty early on to make those decisions.
Sorry, they're both up at the end of the year. They're kind of tied together.
It's my decision, kind of from there.
In Indy as well. In Indy as well. Okay.
Danica, you talked about the public perception and even that playing into the decision not to do ARCA race and things. How do you balance that with, you know, obviously wanting to improve, wanting to get better, but at the same time, when you come to these tracks for the second time, I mean, we're all going, well, she did this last year.
Yeah.
How do you balance that with your own
Thank God I did better at Fontana that second time. Now I expect to do that. Now that I would imagine would be the expectation for all the tracks I'm going to go back to for a second time. So that's the other side to it, is that, you know, there was such an improvement from first to second time that becomes a new standard, and that's probably not going to happen. I mean, that's probably not going to happen, but there's a better chance of it than going to a track for a first time. So yeah, it's something that is hard. It's hard on me. I want to do well. I want you guys to have good things to write about me. I want people to be entertained. I want them to believe in me as a driver. And, you know, I mean, yeah, it's a big part of my job. I mean, if people don't believe that I'm good and care about me, then I have less of a job. So yeah, it's important. I mean, it's part of the stress of being in the position that I'm in. But if I can make good on that and do well, then it's all the better.
Do you want to have another season here before you make your decision as to whether you want to stay here, or are you kind of convinced that this is just part of your learning process, and you know, do you have a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, or is it just kind of like, let's see what happens this year before I decide?
Yeah, I think anytime that, you know, the opportunities open up, and it's time to just be open-minded. So that's my position at this point, and you know, like I said, it's only February, so we'll just have to see how the season evolves, and when it's time to start figuring it out, me and my team will.
Danica, what's the one thing you
guys,
feel
hang
like?
on. This is going to be the last question right here. Harry, go ahead.
Okay. What's the one thing from last year you feel like you've got a better grasp on that gives you encouragement for this year that you feel like you can improve on this year?
I think that that one thing that really helped me last year was starting to understand how I needed the car to handle at the beginning of a run to be good at the end of a run, and you know, dealing with certain things that you know, that are not necessarily great. I mean, the car definitely feels a little loose to start, but it's good at the end of the run. And so there are certain characteristics also to the car that I kind of can identify better now that I know help to make the car good over a whole run. And it definitely wasn't the case at the beginning of the year where, you know, it'd be good for a few laps and then all of a sudden the car would just start pushing and never come back to me. So there were a couple times it was loose, but I just feel like there's a better understanding for what I need out of the car to be good for an entire run.
Thank you, everybody.